Welcome to Outdoorsy, the podcast where we are redefining what it means to be outdoorsy and reclaiming the word itself. I am your host, Madeleine. Today, I'm so excited to introduce a guest who embodies the spirit of exploration and inclusivity, Caitlynn Weeden. Caitlynn is a commercial photographer, brand content creator, and a storyteller based in the Pacific Northwest. Her mission is simple but very powerful: to empower you to wander, whatever that might look like for you. Whether it's hiking, biking, paddleboarding, or some other outdoor adventure, Caitlynn's work inspires people to get outside and experience nature on their own terms. Through her photography and her storytelling, Caitlynn captures not just the beauty of the outdoors, but also the joy and the freedom that comes from exploring it. I love watching her content. Her approach speaks to the heart of this podcast mission, which is making sure that everybody just feels welcome and capable of finding their place in nature, no matter what the background or experience level is. Caitlynn, I'm so excited to have you on the show. Welcome.
I am so excited to be here. Wow, you just made me sound like so cool, so thank you. That was it's so funny to like hear like the summary like back at you. Not something that I
You
say
are
out loud.
cool.
Oh,
Well, you
thank
are cool. You are cool. I'm really happy to have you on. So, I just want to jump in to start talking about your relationship to the outdoorsy community. Tell me a little bit about your relationship with the just outdoorsy world and the
Yeah.
community as a whole.
Yeah, so outdoorsy community, I've pretty much always been a part of it. I started skiing at like the age of 3, and then my whole family has just been like outdoorsy, which I like know isn't the case for everyone, but I'm like super grateful that I've just been doing a lot of it since a young age. I spent most of my like childhood, I was a competitive swimmer, and so I don't think I like got to be outdoorsy as much as I would have liked to because I was like always in a pool. But I also think that that was like amazing for like other reasons. But yeah, I just have always loved being outdoors and like come from a big family, so it was kind of just something for us all to do. Having like 4 other siblings, like 5 kids total, it's like you can't just like go do stuff sometimes. Like you need some like cheaper activities, and like a hike is a nice way to like do something as a family.
Yeah, that's awesome. I too grew up going outdoors a lot, and I think it was very similar. I had a few siblings, and it's like, just get outside, be
Yeah.
outdoors,
Yeah,
and then you
like
end up loving it.
go to the park, go play
Yeah.
basketball, like just go outside and do something, like, go entertain yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So how has that changed, like, as you've gotten older since childhood?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that I've spent like pretty much since like, the pandemic and stuff, I've started spending a lot more time outside because I graduated college, and like in college I was swimming, I was in a sorority, I was studying engineering, so like I just didn't really have any time in college, and I would go on walks around campus and stuff and be outside, but it was like I didn't go backpacking for the first time until college, and so it was just like I feel like post college I really started like honing into like being like, oh, I like being outdoors. And I think a little bit part of it too was like my athletic identity was so big to me in like growing up and in college that that was like kind of what I did. And then I like graduated and I was like, I don't have a sport now. And I was like, I need something. And so I feel like being outdoors is like not my like whole personality, but like it's like a pretty big part of my personality.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I wonder if part of
Yeah.
that too is like as you get older, you start actually paying attention to what you like to do versus what maybe you were made to do as a kid or did just because out of familial obligation. You start realizing like, oh, I actually do really like this thing and want to do it more. I want to try this other thing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, I like actually really like being outside all the time. And like, it's just such a good way to like spend my time, and I feel good after doing it. And it's just so powerful that I'm like, okay, like, I want to be hiking every weekend. Like, that's just what I want to be doing.
Yeah, so would you say now hiking's kind of your sport of choice?
Yeah, I think like honestly just being out in the backcountry, like I'm not super picky, like going on a hike. I love backpacking. Backpacking's probably my favorite thing. Just because I am a photographer, and so like backpacking is like getting to be out. Like my favorite time to shoot is at like golden hour. So if I'm out in the backcountry for a whole like day or two, then I get like 4 of them versus just going on a day hike.
Yeah, yeah, that totally makes sense. So that
Yeah.
actually kind of dovetails perfectly into the next question I was going to ask you was about how you got started with your niche of photography and brand storytelling. Your photography work is stunning. It's
Thank
so
you.
gorgeous.
Thank
I am in love with it. So tell me just a little
you.
bit about how you got into that, especially since it ties so nicely into outdoor exploring.
Yeah, so I got my first camera in fourth grade. It was a little Canon power shoot. And then in like high school, my friends and I were like obsessed with Instagram, as any high schooler is. And so I got my first like DSLR in like sophomore year of high school. And so my friends and I would go and do like photo shoots. I lived in rural Pennsylvania. And so like we would go to like barns and we'd be like doing like photo shoots, like think Pinterest, like, 2014 core. We were like out doing photo shoots and stuff. And so I started with doing portraits with friends. And then I just kind of always did that. Like in college, I would do sorority shoots and stuff. And so I moved to Washington in 2020 and I had my camera with me and I was just like, I didn't really know anyone, so I wasn't really doing portraits or anything. And also, like, I was like, I want to spend time outside because it was like the pandemic and I'm the only thing that I could do. And so I started my hiking Instagram, Weeden Wanders, for like a joke. I just like feel like I'm annoying people posting on my other account and like I want to have a space to like post where I like don't care what people think. And so it was just kind of like started as a joke. And then 2 years ago, I was like, oh, like I actually really enjoy this. And I kind of like admitted that to myself. And I was like, I want to do more with this. And so this whole like journey has been just like going from like, oh, this is like a joke. Like I'm just going to have this for fun. And now I'm like, oh, like, no, like this is like a business and it's something that I really enjoy doing.
That's amazing. I love hearing the story of how you kind of progressed through that. You and I actually have a lot of similarities in how we got started with photography, of like starting out with the cringy photo shoots and stuff with our friends. And I was
Yeah.
uh I was a blogger, a fashion blogger back in the
Ooh.
day, and so you can still go see some of those very cringy photo shoots where I have really bad hair extensions.
Oh, heck
But
yeah.
I completely understand. So, follow-up question. One is, do you still have those cringy photos up on your Instagram?
Uh, the old ones, yeah, if you scroll back on my personal Instagram all the way, they're there. I have younger siblings that like I said, and they're in like high school and they like do the thing where they delete everything. And I'm like, why would I delete my old posts? Like this is like comedic gold. Like you can go see a picture with me and like a mug being like, this is such a cute mug. Like I don't know what I
Uh,
was on.
I love that so much. I am the exact same mindset. I love looking back and being like, wow, I really was a different person, but like I really love those shoes. Whatever it
Yeah,
is. It's
I
just
was like so
it's fun.
passionate about like so funny things, and it's funny when you like look back at yourself too. Like I don't know if you like think this, but I like look back at photography and I'm like, oh, like this in my head sometimes I'm like, oh, this is like a new passion. Like I just started and I was like, no, I've been doing this since like I was little. I'm just admitting it now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, I can completely relate. My second follow-up question for you was, so when you started thinking about things a little bit more seriously, you said about like 2 years ago, like what shifted for you? Like what changed? What in your mindset? Was it just you started feeling more comfortable or you started getting like business opportunities? Tell me about that journey.
Yeah, so I think I just started getting more opportunities, which was like I think I started getting more opportunities and I also was surrounding myself with like people that were also doing stuff like this. One of my really good friends, True Adventure is her handle on Instagram, Karina. She like started her own yoga retreat business. And so I was living with her at that time and I was like, oh, like what she's doing is really cool and it's like not conventional. And I think just like seeing that kind of started being like, oh, like I can do things that like aren't conventional. Like I don't need to be like an engineer and like I love engineering and like I'm glad that, that's an option, but I'm also like I just kind of started thinking about it more and I was like, oh, like this is something that is really cool to do. And then 2 years ago, I got like last 2 summers ago, I guess I should say, I did a project with Olympus, OM Systems is their new rebrand. and it was called the Tell Your Story Project. And so I got the chance to get a camera from them and then work all summer on telling like a story. And my story was focused on telling a story of women in the outdoors, which was really fun. I interviewed like all my friends, and just like that whole project was like an amazing like confidence booster that like, oh, like this is something that I can do. And like I don't love that it was based off the validation of like other people, but at the same time it was like kind of needed because I was like, oh, like this is like a real thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool that you had that opportunity, and I hear what you're saying about, oh, I wish I didn't need that extra validation or whatever. But like you said, sometimes you need that. You need that little push for someone to be like, "No, you're good at this." And
Yeah.
to be like, "Oh, I guess I am." And yeah, that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
What are some of the projects and things that you're doing right now that have kind of come up from working on this for the last couple of years?
Yeah, so I'm feel like I am doing a lot of content creation now. I am still figuring this out. Like I just started officially full time in May, and I definitely have been going off on a slow start because I just needed some like recovery time from work. My last job was interesting to say the least, and so I was like, okay, like I'm gonna kind of recover and take some time, and I've done a lot of really cool things this summer. But yeah, I've kind of been leaning into content creation. Like a lot of brands need it, and it's not photography, but photography is super helpful for stuff like this. I'm sure you know, like it's just nice to be able to like line things up and have things look pleasing. And so a lot of that, I'm really trying to get more into commercial photography, and it's just been a big learning curve of how to like, cold email people and like pitch to clients and stuff like that. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like you said, I think there's so much transferable skills from what you learn in photography to content creation, just what looks good, but also just how to think about content storytelling. I think you
Mhm.
tell a story with photography, and that translates really well into content
Yeah.
creation, whether that's video or photo or whatever it ends up being.
Yeah. I just went to, so last month I went on a creative retreat, which is like something that's like wild to me. I don't think that like even a couple months ago I've been like, oh, like I'm not creative enough to go on a creative retreat, like that's, but anyway, I went and it was so much fun, and just seeing like other artists, it was all different mediums. There was like one other photographer, everyone else was like watercolorists or, like metal worker, like everyone did something different. And I was like, oh, like I think collaging could be really fun. And so lately I've been leaning into like trying to do more collaging in my like visual storytelling because I'm like, this is like a really fun way to like tell a story, but like still be in photos.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. Yeah, I feel like I saw something you had posted recently of a collage or some journaling or something that you're doing, and I was like, wow, that looks really cool. That looks really fun. That was
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I've been taking like magazines that I get from brands and like cutting them up and like putting them in my journal, which has been really fun. Yeah, and it's
I
like
love
fun
that.
too. Yeah, because you like get to like work backwards. Like I know that they probably have a board somewhere for their like shoot, and I'm like, I wonder if it looks like this.
Yeah, that's awesome. I used to work at I only worked there for one summer doing an internship, but Eddie Bauer, and I
Mhm.
remember I got to go into their kind of studio where they're laying out their upcoming edition of their catalog, and my eyes like bugged out of my head. I was like, this is so cool. Like people get paid to
Yeah,
do this.
I was like,
It
I
was
know,
really cool.
I'm like, this is like insane, and it's like so cool that like people just that's someone's job. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's so cool.
Yeah,
That must
but
have
it
been a
takes
fun
talent
internship.
and skill though. It's not just like anybody can just do it. I mean, they can, but like for it to be done well, it does take a certain eye and a certain skill set. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's really valid. I was gonna ask you just kind of backing up, you said something about this creative retreat that you went on that I just wanted to double tap on
Yeah.
was you said you didn't see yourself as like a creative enough person.
Yeah.
Where do you think that kind of imposter syndrome stems from? Because everything you've said until this point, it's like, of course you are. What are you talking
Yeah.
about? But I
Yeah.
know I know how that feels, and I just am curious to hear
I feel
your
like
experience with that.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of creatives feel this way, and it's like completely normal. Like I know so many people who like are photographers, but they like won't call themselves a photographer. And it's just like I feel like it just comes from like one like saying it a bunch that you are that. But like with that retreat specifically, I just like I feel like coming from the engineering world, my brain is very like engineering focused sometimes, like black and white, like logical. And it is like really hard to like I don't know, I'm like I'm an engineer, but like two things can exist in one. So I'm like I can be an engineer, but I can also be an artist, which is I don't know, just like weird to like think about because it's just two completely different sides of your brain, but also it isn't. Like there's so many things that overlap and it's like such a fun way to like look at things.
I love
So
that.
yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
awesome. It's so interesting talking to people who are really creative, but then have this whole other side of their brain too. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's
Um,
fun.
yeah, yeah. I want to jump into kind of the next topic here, which is related to kind of photography. And I think it dovetails into this kind of imposter syndrome or maybe struggling to identify with a certain thing. I feel like in photography in this world, especially in the outdoor nature landscape photography world,
Hmm.
it's very male dominated. It at least feels that way. The tides are certainly turning. There's so many incredibly talented female photographers like yourself. But I'm wondering how you've navigated any of those challenges in your experience.
Yeah. So this is like kind of crazy to me because I think about this a lot. Like my friends and I talk about it just like in the circles that like of even just going outdoors, like not even my photographer friends. I feel like I'm like only surrounded by women, which is like probably, very like chosen. My subconscious is like I want to be around like cool, like badass women. And so I was like thinking about it, I was like, I think I've like shot with like one male photographer. And like, so like, definitely it is very male dominated, but I have just been choosing to surround myself with a bunch of really cool women. And like, whether that be going to like a networking event, I go like monthly to like a CEO society, which is just all women, female entrepreneurs in Seattle. And it's like so fun. And it's like cool to like be surrounded by a community that's doing like what I want to do. And so I feel like also just working as an engineer for a while, like I've gotten to like firsthand see men saying things and like I've just like responded to it and I think like having to stand up for myself in situations like that has been super helpful because I'm like, oh, I acknowledge that this is happening, but also like I'm actively trying to like fight against like that happening.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's so incredible that you've put yourself in great situations where you can be around people who inspire you and lift you up. I mean, I think that that's finding that community can be really challenging for some people. So I'm really happy that you've been able to find that. That's so
It is,
important and amazing.
yeah. Community is so important. I like vividly remember like when I made a connection to this when I was like my first year here, my friends and I were hiking to Kolchak, and my friends were, I was like talking, and I was like, oh yeah, like in my like last friend group, like I would like say stuff sometimes. They'd be like, oh, like she doesn't know what she's talking about, or like she like doesn't have like why would we trust her to plan the hike, or something. And then I like said that to them, and they're like, oh, you need to get better friends. Like that's like not
Yeah.
how people should be talking to you. And I was like, oh, like yeah, I guess you're right. Like that isn't okay. Like I'm very capable, and so just like I feel so lucky my friends have been super helpful in like being like supportive and just showing me the way.
That's so amazing. That's so nice. Do you
Yeah.
have like any advice you would give to someone who's listening to this podcast who maybe doesn't have a core group of girlfriends or people that they feel comfortable around? How can they find that community?
Yeah, so it is really hard. Like I want to acknowledge that. I feel like I got super lucky. I when I first moved here, it was the pandemic, and so I like was listening to Call Her Daddy, and she one day was like, "Okay, like we under," she's like, "I understand it's hard to make friends, but like you just need to go on Bumble BFF and go on a friend date, and like it's gonna be awkward, but like you never know until you go." And I went on a friend date with this girl, the first one, and like I've been best friends with her ever since. Like we talked for like 3 hours on the date, the friend
Oh
date.
my God.
Yeah, and then like we went and hiked Mailbox for a sunrise hike like a week later. And like so I like I said, I got really lucky, but like you just have to put yourself in these like uncomfortable positions, which is like really not fun advice.
No, I think it's such important advice. Also, this should be sponsored by Bumble at this point. I
I
mean,
know,
that's
right?
if there ever was a plug for doing Bumble BFF, that's what I would go for. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. I think the people that I have met in my life that have become close friends are that way because I put myself out there in uncomfortable situations, and it's really tough to do, and that's really, like you said, unpleasant advice to hear.
Yeah, it like
Especially
sucks.
if you're an introvert or you have anxiety or you struggle with any of that. But sometimes you just got to do it.
Yeah, I feel like Um, literally, I like the fact that I was in a sorority in college still kind of blows my mind, but there were many pluses to it because I had to do recruitment, and going through recruitment was so helpful for like just being in social situations and like having to talk to people. I was like,
I
oh, this is
cannot
good.
agree more. Yeah.
I was like, I know it's not like I don't know, like we were cool, but I'm like, I know it can be like kind of when you say it to some people, they're like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, it's okay.
No, I people hate on sorority life and there's plenty to be unpacked there, but I did learn a lot of really good skills about socializing and learning how to talk to people that were was
Yeah.
really valuable.
Yeah, exactly. And like it just helps to like put yourself in those, it's like practice, like conversations practice. Like I'm a big like a big proponent that pretty much anything you want to do, you can do it if you just practice. So,
Yeah, totally. There was something you said a little bit earlier before we kind of got on this tangent about how you've worked in a male-dominated industry. You have been lucky enough to kind of like get around that with photography because you've been surrounding yourself with like amazing women and that kind of thing. But you did
mhm.
mention that, you have received some hate or some not great comments from people in the past. And I'm sure as a content creator who publishes stuff on their own page with their own self,
Yeah.
in video and photos, you've probably received, some level of comments
Yeah.
from people. And if you don't feel comfortable talking about this is okay. But it's something
Yeah.
that I think about a lot when I think about how I show up online in the outdoor community, because I get plenty of comments myself. If you
Yeah.
have any experiences with that and how you navigate those
Yeah.
types of experiences.
Well, first of all, I love how you deal with it. I feel like I like sent it to someone once and I was like, this girl's hilarious. Like how she's like responding to stuff. I was like literally my inspo. But no, it is like really hard. Like in person at like work, I've just heard people say things and like it's easier to like say it to someone's face and be like, you can't say that.
Yeah.
But online is like a completely different beast, and it's something that I'm navigating more so because I feel like I have been showing up more authentically on social media, which gives people their, they think they can talk. But how I've been dealing with it is I just block and delete people. Like my page isn't a spot for free speech if people are going to be mean. Lately I've had like some men commenting on just like me and like my appearance, and I'm like, one, I can't even comment back to you. Like, you have your replies turned off. And two, I'm like, don't you have anything better to be doing? Like, I feel like I started navigating it by like acknowledging that it was really upsetting what they were saying because they picked something that was like super big insecurity of mine. But like, two, I'm like, this man is sitting, it's mostly men. There are some women, but we'll say it's like 90% men. And I'm like, this man is sitting on his couch, on a Tuesday night, choosing to say this to someone he doesn't even know. I'm like, that's funny. Like, I'm like sitting there, like envisioning him with like his phone. And I'm like, it just made me laugh. So that's how I'm choosing to deal with it. We'll see if it changes in the future, but yeah,
I
it's
think that's the right
hilarious.
attitude though. I mean, props to you for being able to like get to that point mentally because it's tough, but I love what you just said of the thought of like they're probably commenting this on some video of you doing some badass thing on a top of a mountain, like doing something they could never dream of, and they're
Yeah,
sitting on their couch choosing to spend their precious time commenting on a stranger's video, something they
yeah,
would never say to their face. And it's just
yeah,
like hard to feel too angry and upset when you frame it that way and you kind of make that mental picture in your head. You're like, wow,
yeah.
that's sad for you.
It did take a therapist session to get there. Like, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
minimize that, but I'm like, I think that we have the right to be upset by what people say to us online because, like, you are talking to a person. Like, I don't think that people like realize that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, also, it's like the internet. Like, what? I don't know.
Yeah. It's so tough. I definitely like fluctuate. Some days it's harder, some days it's easier, and yeah, it depends on
Yeah.
what they say too, right? So,
Yeah, yeah, it depends on what's
yeah,
said. And yeah, so I love what Chapel Roan's doing. I think that
yeah,
she's making a big difference in this because she's like being like, people stop being creepy. Like this is not okay. Like stop like stalking. And I'm like, yeah, this is not like what should be expected from sharing online.
yeah. I completely agree. I made a video about this recently about how, you know, nowhere near even a minuscule tiny fraction of fame that Chapel Roan has. I have like a couple thousand followers on social media, right? I've
Yeah,
got it's not even comparable. But even I, at 40K on TikTok or whatever, get people DMing me and being like, "Hey, you want to hang out?" And like those are types of things that are even tough to deal with because
yeah,
nobody's being mean or malicious, but it's just this weird thing with parasocial relationships too. It's like people either think they know you, but they don't, or people think that they have the freedom to say whatever they want. And I really like your approach of what you said about the hate comments of like, you just delete and block. Like your page
yeah,
is not the platform or the space to
yeah,
foster that. So like goodbye.
yeah, yeah. I learned the hard way. We had a reel like that I did with my friends, and we like commented back on stuff, and then I was like, oh, I don't like how this is going. Like, we're
Yeah.
not going to do that again.
Can really suck your energy too. It's just like, for what? This person's
Yeah.
not going to change. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, they don't care. They're not going to look at this
Yeah.
comment again. They're never going to see my page again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so that kind of goes into the next thing that I really wanted to talk about, which is kind of inclusivity in the outdoor community, because I don't know about you, but sometimes some of the comments I get on social media are from people who think that they're better than me because they enjoy the outdoors a different way, or
Hmm.
they're more elitist, or they're more educated, or kind of what your bad old friends were trying to do of making you feel like you're not adequate or like you're knowledgeable enough to be worthy of being
Hmm.
outdoorsy or claiming this title. So I did want to talk about kind of inclusivity and how that can sometimes be like a really big barrier for people to get out there and actually feel like they can enjoy the outdoors in a way that makes sense to them.
Yeah, no, I'm like super passionate about this because I feel like it is really hard to get into the outdoors because it is like a lot of these things are dangerous. Like going skiing is dangerous. Like it is an extreme sport no matter what. Like going backpacking or going hiking, like you're putting yourself in a situation that you're like away from a lot of people or, easy access to stuff. And so it's like super important that we go and do these things safely and like but also like make it accessible for everyone to do these things. And so like it's always a constant like struggle of something that I'm like I want to be helping people do these things. But like yeah, I don't know. It is. It's like I want people to get outdoors, but I also like want people to be safe. And I guess like I'm trying to do that through providing resources for people. Um but I also like teach ski lessons and stuff. I'm an instructor, and so I'm just like I want to be in places where I can help people.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's such good self-awareness to have too, of like, oh, I'm sharing myself doing these adventures, but please remember that I've done a lot of research and a lot of work to be able to get to this point.
Yeah.
It's really important that other people do that as well, which can feel really intimidating to someone who maybe hasn't done it, but it's really important they don't just like pack a bag with a water bottle and head out to a trail.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you don't ever want to like mislead people on stuff because like sometimes people like message you and they'd be like, "Oh, like was it hard?" And I'm like or like, "Oh, like how long do you think it'll take me to do this?" And I'm like, "I really can't answer these questions for you. Like this is how long it took me. I'm not fast, I'm not slow." Like you know what I mean? Like it's all sometimes like you have to go out and experience those things for yourself. And so I don't know, it's just like providing, like, I feel like spaces where people can go and learn and try things and like, but it still be safe.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I feel like I used to get that with hiking, but also with running too. People would be like, "Oh, well, how fast, was it a hard race or was it how fast were you going?" I was like, "Well, I was going fast for me. That might not be fast for you. I don't know." Or, it
Yeah.
just is hard. You have to just like get out there and really experience it for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, what other advice would you have for people who maybe are thinking about maybe picking up hiking. Let's do hiking as an example. They haven't really hiked before. They don't really know where to start. What would you recommend to them? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, if you've never hiked before and you really want to do it, I feel like there's so many cool groups in Seattle. Like, I would suggest like finding a group and going with a group. I think there's, when I first started hiking out here, I like interned a summer in Washington, and that's how I found it. And I think I joined Women Who Explore on Facebook, and I just like went to like a meetup there, or I just tried to find people, and I like went with people, because I like didn't really want to go by myself. I'm definitely more okay with solo stuff now, but like that was hard to like get into. Like traveling by yourself is can be scary and like super empowering, but also it's just, I also love to yap, so I like love to talk and have people there to talk to. But yeah, I would suggest just like trying to find a group and go out with a group.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice. I think that I kind of had an abnormal foray into hiking and stuff because I just kind of jumped into doing it on my own because I was like,
Hmm.
all right, I'm not going to wait for anybody. But I had previous outdoorsy experience, and I think if I had been starting at zero, I think that would have been a bad decision. I think I would have wanted to start somewhere with people who kind of know what they're doing, or at least there's other people
Yeah.
around that might know what they're doing so you can
Yeah.
ask questions. Have you found that when you've put yourself out there and started going to things with community with people, that people were pretty welcoming and easy to talk to and ask questions?
Yeah, I don't know, I think like coming from the East Coast and like New York and stuff, I was like going to school in New York before I came here. People are like really friendly here, which I like feel like is counter, like everyone's all like, oh, the Seattle freeze. And I'm like, I don't know, I kind of think it's like whatever energy you're putting in, like you kind of get back out. And so I feel like I mostly know transplants here, so maybe that's also something. But yeah, I feel like you kind of just gotta go and like start talking to people and like, yeah, I feel like everyone has been really welcoming. I think like when I first moved out here, this is like a big thing that I literally tell everyone to do because I think another issue with a lot of outdoorsy sports is there is like a really high barrier to entry and like cost too. Like it's like hard to access trails if you don't have like an all-wheel drive car sometimes. Or like if you want to go skiing, like you need the pass and the gear and all of that. Like there's just like a high barrier to entry to like a lot of outdoorsy stuff. And I like literally like my first winter here, I was a ski instructor because I didn't buy a pass in time. And also I like couldn't afford one at that point. And I had like all hand-me-down gear and stuff that I had like gotten from family and like basically if you want to go teach at the summit, they're like, "Can you ski a blue?" Okay, you're an instructor. And like even if you can't ski a blue, they're like, "Okay, we'll teach you." And so I'm like, it's amazing because like you can go get access to a community and like training like right away.
That's awesome. I feel like there's so many interesting ways like that to get involved in some sort of outdoor activity that people sometimes don't think about. Like that, I had no idea about that. That's so cool. Like that's such a cool way to get into that. I think
Yeah.
about like people can volunteer with the Washington Trails Association and they provide you with like the gloves and the tools and stuff. And if you just want to like see what it's like out on a trail with other people, you can just volunteer for free and they like will
Yeah.
hang out with you for a day while you also are doing trail work. Like I think there's
Yeah.
kind of abnormal, kind of non-traditional ways that you can also get involved in community and try new things that people might not
Yeah.
think about.
And there's so many cool groups. I think I went to do you follow Served by Sarah?
I think so. Yeah.
She does like community walks. And so I went on one
Yeah.
of those a little bit ago and then I met this guy there who like runs like a record and like trails store. And I think like from his store like once a week people go on hikes. And so I'm like I just feel like if you just like go poke around for a little bit, there's like so many ways to get outside and like I think that he even like rents a van and like takes people. And then so I'm like this is like cool. There's just like options for you to get outside.
That's so cool. I feel like a big part of that is like just asking questions. Like just I think curiosity is one of those things that opens doors for a ton of people. And if you're just asking people questions about like what they're doing, you'll unlock all these different little doors and all these different little opportunities that you didn't know existed. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
being curious is like something that is so good to be. Like I feel like that's always like just wanting to like ask questions and stuff. That's like why I chose to be an engineer. I was like, I want to know why this works. And so it's like fun to like look at it through like a curious lens. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what else do you think we can do? Like, if, like, I feel like we've really talked to the people who are listening who maybe don't know where to start or are afraid to start, kind of how they can kind of get their foot in the door. What about the rest of us who are maybe a little bit more experienced? Like, what can we do to be more inclusive and more welcoming to people who are beginners? I mean, what you've said about you sharing, sharing things online and becoming an instructor and things like that is fantastic. But I'm wondering, do you
Mhm.
have any other thoughts or pieces of advice for other people on how we can make this a more inclusive
I
and welcoming community?
I feel like always just making everything a conversation is kind of how I go because like this is something that I'm still working on. Like I want to be inclusive, like and I know that I'm not always inclusive. I feel like that's kind of like in the outdoor world it is like kind of gatekeepy and like just in general like I don't know, like I'm always like, oh, like am I sharing this for like the right reason or just kind of thinking about like what I'm doing. And so I'm always open to suggestions on how to make it more inclusive, but I just am always just trying to think of ways that like if I'm doing something, or if I'm out and somebody like needs help with something on the trail, like, last weekend a little kid got stung and so I was like giving him stuff. Like, I don't know, I just think like trying to make things a more open space for people to feel safe to ask questions. I'm not really sure if that's what you were thinking, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's like it's super hard because I do want it to be more inclusive and it's like how do we do that? Because like I don't know, like I acknowledge like I'm a white woman and I feel like out of most people I have it pretty easy in the outdoor spaces, like I don't know. So it's definitely a challenge.
I think you are maybe being a little too hard on yourself with saying that you don't know what to do because just the fact that you're thinking about it is more than what a lot of people do. A lot of people don't even think about these things about, oh, what am I doing and how am I helping or what can I do better? A lot of people don't ask themselves those questions, so the fact that you are is really
Yeah.
great and miles above what a lot of other people are doing. So I think that is a huge piece of it.
Yeah. No, I hope so, but also I'm like I want to be like doing some actionable things. So if anybody has any suggestions, feel free to send them my way.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. But also
Yeah.
like that's the whole premise of this podcast, right? Like I'm talking to a bunch of different people from different walks of life that have different lived experiences, who live in different bodies, who come from different backgrounds, who haven't had the privileges that you and I have experienced
Hmm.
as white women in the outdoors. And I think by having these conversations and like asking the questions and then being open to learn and change behavior is all we can really do, right? It's just continue to
Yeah.
learn and be open and receptive to feedback or questions or piece of
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just want everyone to be outside and enjoy it, and I
Yeah.
want to help them be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's like the whole goal here. So that
Yeah.
leads me perfectly into the final question, the big question, which is like, how do you define outdoorsy?
Yeah, so I think that people like to define things too much. I feel like everyone is like, and like this is like goes back to like my imposter syndrome with like photography stuff too. Like, it took me so long to call myself a photographer, but like I've had a camera. I was a photographer as soon as I picked up my camera. So I feel like being outdoorsy is just if you like to be outdoors, then you're outdoorsy. Like, even if that, like, it was really funny. I was talking to a friend in a coffee shop this morning and I was telling her that I was going to be talking with you, and she was like, yeah, I'm like not really outdoorsy. Like, I like to be outdoors. And I'm like, okay, but like, that's the same thing.
Yeah. You're
And
like,
so I
yeah,
just think
that's
that we
it.
need to like not label it so much and like make it less serious. And like, if you go outdoors, like if you like to go sit by Green Lake in Seattle and read a book, then you're outdoorsy because you're outside enjoying nature.
Yeah, yeah. And think about all the people that don't do stuff like that. They don't consider themselves outdoorsy because they're like, no, why would I sit outside with a book when I could sit inside? Like, why would I do that?
Yeah.
So you are valid in however you are enjoying the outdoors. So I love
Yeah.
that. I love what you just said. And yeah, I think sometimes it comes back to that imposter syndrome of like, well, I'm not really, that I'm not super serious about, if you're just like a casual backpacker who likes to go
Yeah.
out every once in a while, maybe you don't have like the like crazy ultralight gear and therefore you're like, well, I'm not really a backpacker. It's like, no, you backpacked. You
Yeah.
are a
Yeah.
backpacker.
If you backpacked once, you're a backpacker. It's like crazy
Yeah.
to think, but like, yeah, I think it is because like the outdoor space and like I feel like I go to skiing a lot for stuff like this because I think it's just so like well seen in skiing. But like a lot of people are so like, I don't know, like you're not a skier unless you're like doing this, this, or this. And I'm like, why like one like the amount of people that are doing I like they have to think about it this way in my brain. I'm like, I'm not an Olympian in like what I'm doing. Like I'm going out to do these things for fun. Like I feel like sometimes I get in my head and I'm like, oh, like I'm not doing like these kind of hikes or like these kind of like summits and stuff. But I'm like, I'm literally going to walk. Like I'm going out for a walk in the woods. Like that's not that serious. Like I'm going to have fun and like I just need to chill and go have fun and enjoy nature.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so valid. That touches on something that I have talked a lot about, which is enjoying the outdoors doesn't have to revolve around accomplishing a goal or a conquest. You're not
Mhm.
necessary or even getting better at anything. I mean, the same could be said about being an artist or liking to craft. You're maybe not trying to be the world's best painter in the world, but you just like painting. So like go
Yeah.
paint and then you're a painter. I think a lot of that has to similar crossover with outdoorsiness. It's like, well, I'm not trying to like ski black diamonds. I just like going on the blue runs and
Yeah.
kind of going
And
for
that's
a
still,
little nice vibe and that you're still a skier,
yeah, and you're
you
still
know?
there, you're having fun, like you're like it's not I just think it's not that serious. Like I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
times I'm just like it's literally not that serious. Like I feel like it's like a joke, but it's like we're on a floating rock in space, like everything is not that serious. Like go have fun.
It's not that serious. It's not a competition, too. We're
Yeah.
not competing against each other. There's no prize for who's the better outdoorsman. It's just
Yeah. It's like
we're just existing.
I'm like, did you have fun today? Like that the prize is like, did you have fun? Like, is this what you wanted to do? Like go have some fun and relax and enjoy and like yeah, and I think that sometimes it's super easy to get caught up. Like I feel like I still get caught up sometimes and I'm like, "Oh, like I'm here to have fun. Like I just need to, think about why I'm doing this activity."
I love that mental framing of the prize is, did you have fun? Did you have
Yeah,
fun today? Great. Awesome.
great.
If you didn't,
Then
maybe don't do that again
and like I'm
or
not
figure
like
out
totally
why.
yeah, I'm like not totally against like I feel like when you go and do hard things outdoors, it is super empowering. Like when I have a day where I have a longer day and I'm like, wow, like I'm super proud of myself for doing something like that and I think like being an athlete for so long has like helped me with this where I'm like I like having some challenges and like tough things thrown at me, but also you can sense in your mind when you're like this is past a line of this is a fun challenge. Like, if you're like doing a scramble and it's like continuously you're unwell and scared, then I'm like you can tell when you've like pushed it too far.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely a big difference there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, cool. Well, I was just going to ask you kind of to wrap things up about future projects, kind of what's next for you, that kind of thing. But is there
Yeah.
anything else that you want to talk about before we kind of wrap things up?
No, I mean, I love this conversation and I feel like it's so important to just like get people outdoors and like talking about the outdoors and like everyone's experiences are so different. So it's really fun to just connect and like learn. And I'm always open to questions from people if, you want to know like where I'm going or what hikes. I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna tell you exactly where I'm going, safety. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just always open to questions. So feel free to reach out.
Yeah, I love that. And I love your content. It's all super, it feels really approachable and lovely and
Oh,
also just beautiful. Like your photography is so stunning. So,
thank
um,
you. I love
if
yours too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to put all of your links in the show notes for everybody listening or watching this at home. You'll have the links to her Instagram, TikTok, and then I also have your just webpage that has links to all of your other stuff that you've got going
Yeah.
on, like your website and your prints
Yeah.
and things like that. Anything else you want to plug? Anything else you've
Yeah,
got coming
no.
up?
If people are in the Seattle area, or if you're not even in the Seattle area, I'm looking to do group travel in the next year. So keep your eye out if you want to adventure with some cool women. I love doing group travel, and I've done some this past summer, with a friend, and so excited to do more of that. And then I'm also doing commercial photography. So if you or anyone you know is looking for photographers or just want to connect, that would be great, and you can reach out.
Awesome. So excited. I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye out for those adventures because I will be joining as long as my foot allows me to.
Yeah, I
So,
know. I hope it gets
yeah.
better quick. How's it
Oh, thank
doing?
you. It's doing okay. You know,
Yeah.
we're walking. We're making progress, just slower than I
Yeah.
thought, but it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. Aw.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So exciting. Awesome stuff coming up. I just cannot thank you enough for joining me on this podcast. Again, if anybody wants to connect with Caitlin, all of the links will be available to you. But thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Outdoorsy, and just remember that you belong out there.